Hey guys, Chris from the Ultimate Recycler here. In my line of work, being a second-hand dealer, we clean out a lot of deceased estates, house lots, sheds, and we turn up, believe it or not, amongst everything else, we turn up food. It's usually outdated. In a deceased estate, it may have been in the pantry and the family called us in to do the total cleanup. This was used by 2016. I think it has been opened anyway, so they're all pretty full and they're well out of date, so they're no good to even give to a shelter or anything because they've been opened. So what do you do with these? Well, most people that are cleaning up a house fill up the bin. They throw them all in the rubbish bin. Goes into general landfill. The bottles are recyclable, but you can't put the bottles in the recycle bin when they're still full of produce. So the easy option for people is just send them to landfill, and sometimes I've seen bins full with stuff from a house clean out that it's a wonder the truck can even lift the bin. It's that heavy, and it's all just going to clog up our landscape. So one of my quirky worm tests, let's see if the worms will handle this produce. What we have here is spreadable sandwich pickles, your standard tomato sauce, which I believe is loaded with sugar. We have some fat-free Italian salad dressing. Fat-free normally means it's loaded with sugar. And Thousand Island sauce or dressing, which I actually used to love on prawns, but we're on a keto diet now, and this is probably loaded with sugar as well. Carbohydrates 24.7 grams per 100. Yep, lots of sugar in that. So I'm going to spread these in this little section of a worm farm. It's one of my garden beds that I use regularly, and other than some minor tree roots, it's beautiful worm castings mixed with the soil. I've been using this bed for quite some time, and it's really almost don't need to shovel it out. It's pretty well full to the top. What a problem to have, hey? Excess fertile soil. So there's worms in here from a test I did recently. They've probably moved elsewhere looking for food. So I'll do a run of each of these products in a line, and it'll be really interesting to see if the worms go for it. Okay, there we go, all spread out. This is probably my most bizarre worm food test for quite some time, but anyway, it's a bit of fun, and it has a practical purpose in that I've rinsed the bottles out now, poured the contents into the test bed, and what we're going to end up with hopefully is happy worms consuming and turning the produce into beautiful worm castings. And we have 4 containers that are all fully recyclable, therefore nothing goes into landfill, which has to be our aim, I think. So alright, it takes a little bit longer to do something like this when you're cleaning up a house, but you know, it's worth the effort, I think, and at least this test will show you if it's going to work. Alright, I'll remove these containers for now. We have a reference to which is in which row. The Italian salad dressing was sort of fairly liquidy, and it's dissolved, or it's soaked right into the soil, but that will be fine. We'll see if the worms like it all and which one they go for first, perhaps, and we'll check back in a week and see how it's going. Okay, it's been a couple of weeks since we laid this test out. I did check it last week, and there wasn't much going on. There was a bit of mould starting to happen, so I didn't think it was worth reporting on. But now 2 weeks in, let's see if there's been any activity. Alright, well, things have been going on. Now, last week when I did have a peek, there were ants all over this one. This was the Thousand Island dressing, and so the ants were getting into it, but I can't see any sign of ants now. I don't know if there's any worms in it either. So it had gone mouldy. It's still a bit mouldy over the edge, but it's settled down a bit. The tomato sauce actually looks as if it's disappearing. and when I flicked this mat over I could see some worms in this first section. Oh yeah, look at that, there they are. So and the tomato sauce did go mouldy as well, but the worms are certainly getting into that now. Look at that. So it looks like they're going to eat the tomato sauce. Now the sandwich pickles or sweet mustard certainly went mouldy. There's been a few ants on that one as well. Let's have a look if there's anything going on underneath. Not really. I can't see any worms there, but there's certainly microbes of some sort getting in there, and there was some ants as well. And the Italian salad dressing, as I said when I first poured it in, it soaked in fairly quickly into the soil. Oh, but look at that, the worms are into that, just under the surface. They're all been munching away under there, so obviously whatever was in that has soaked in and the bacteria has got involved there, and the worms are following up and having a feast. So it's looking pretty good in that I think it'll all disappear. The tomato sauce is disappearing and the Italian salad dressing seems to be popular. So we'll check back in another week, or I might even leave it a couple, and just see what's happening with these other ones, the Thousand Island dressing and the sandwich pickles. And I think they'll all disappear quite nicely, and the worms should move in to finish it all off. We'll check back anyway in a couple of weeks. Okay, it's only been a week, but I thought I'd show you what's going on. I had a quick peek before, and the tomato sauce has vanished. So in the last week it's totally disappeared. And if we have a bit of a scratch around here, you can see the worms are thick in there. So tomato sauce is all gone, other than the residual in the soil that they're eating. It does look like the Thousand Island sauce is now starting to be consumed. So there's parts of it that seem to be disappearing, and underneath are worms. So we'll check it again next week, but I reckon there's a fair chance that'll be gone next week. And the sandwich pickles or sweet mustard is also now being consumed. So they took a bit longer. This one, the Italian dressing's all gone, and the worms have pretty much just moved away now. Well, there's still a few there. So that's gone, the tomato sauce is gone, and the other two are now starting to go. So we'll check it again next week and see if there's much left. Okay, let's do a final check on this test of outside the use by date items. Oh, look at that. There's plenty of worms on the surface here. Excuse the wind here, it's been pretty windy today. Alright, so what have we got? The Thousand Island sauce. That was that one. There's still some left, but you know, clearly it's disappearing, and without a doubt it's been consumed. There's only a thin layer left, and look at the worms in here. So they're enjoying that one now. That one did take a while to break down, the longest of them all actually, because the next one was standard tomato sauce or tomato sauce, depending where you're from. That's well and truly gone. In fact, the worms have pretty well moved from there. They're probably finishing off the Thousand Island dressing. The other one in our test was the sandwich pickles, which I think that had disappeared last time we looked. And the first one to go was over the far side, and that was the Italian dressing, salad dressing. Well and truly just worm castings and soil there. So that pretty well completes our test. There's no doubt that the Thousand Island sauce will be gone within a week or so. There's not very much left, just a thin layer on the top there, just a skin really, and the worms are as thick as anything under there, working away at it. Look at that. So successful test, and more importantly success in that we didn't send anything to landfill. We didn't put these containers in the bin full of the product that would have ended up in probably in an anaerobic situation eventually when the containers broke down and producing methane gas and all the nasty stuff. We've converted the produce into beautiful soil, and we now have 4 empty containers, 3 of them plastic, this one's glass, and they're all fully recyclable. So very successful mission there, just to show you that you really don't need to throw out food of any sort, regardless of the fact that it was probably full of sugar and who knows what else they put in some of these things. Someone told me once if you ever saw tomato sauce being made, you'd never eat it again. So, but anyway, look, the worms have handled it, the microbes have broken it down, it's returned to beautiful soil, and the containers will be recycled. So I'm very happy with that experiment. Look out for my next quirky worm food test. I'm coming up with all sorts of ideas, as well as other recycling things on my channel. Thanks for watching.